Hello, my name's Rachel and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you the funds, trusts and ETFs that I'm currently holding in my investment ISA. Now I've had a couple of comments on some videos that I put together asking to see a list of all of these investments in their entirety because they are split across a couple of ISAs. So I have a Barclays Smart Investor ISA and I also have a Fidelity ISA. So I thought it'd be really helpful if I just had a video that I put together that had every single fund, trust and ETF that I'm invested in. Now I won't be including individual stocks and shares in this video because the amount of money I have invested in individual stocks and shares is relatively small because I do prefer to focus on investing in actively managed funds, ETFs and trusts. The investments that I'm going to share with you today are all investments that I hold more than £1,000 in because I have a couple of Vanguard investments that I hold less than £1,000 in, so I wanted to share with you the bigger investments. So I'm going to be sharing with you 16 different funds, trusts and ETFs today, and I'm going to share them from the biggest holding all the way down to the lowest holding, and I'm also going to share their 3-year annualized performance and then also talk through their top 3 holdings as well. So looking at this portfolio and its annualized returns, the average annualized returns for 1 year are 30.98%, and that is taken from the 3-year annualized returns and then taking the average of that, so a 30.98% annualized return for the last 3 years is what we're seeing on average when we look at all of these investments. Obviously there are some that have had a greater return than that and some that have had less of a return than that. Obviously the last 3 years have been pretty unprecedented in terms of investing, so I don't expect to see this performance continue. However, I do hope that they continue to do well into the future. As I said, I'll be starting with my biggest holding and then going all the way down to my lowest holding. I've recently done a bit of a spring clean with my portfolio and my funds, and I have sold some off that you might have seen in my portfolio updates before. So I have sold some off to make sure that there wasn't too much crossover, and I just wanted to concentrate on these 16 different investments rather than having the mix that I did have before. Let's get into it. So the first holding that I hold the majority of my money in is Baillie Gifford American. So that has a 3-year annualized return of 36.15%, and its top 3 holdings are Shopify, Wayfair and then Roku. So I've been really pleased with that performance. I've actually got a separate video on the Baillie Gifford American fund because it is my largest holding, and so I will link that up here. Moving on to my second largest holding, it is Baillie Gifford Positive Change. You'll see that I do have a lot of Baillie Gifford funds in here. That is an actively managed fund. Its 3-year annualized performance is 34.81%, and its top 3 holdings are Moderna, Tesla and ASML. Again, I've actually done a video on this one as well, so I will share that with you too. And I've actually done a video on the next one as well, which I will also pop in the description. So these are my biggest holdings, which is why I have done individual videos on them. So the number 3 biggest holding is the Scottish Mortgage Investment Trust. So this is obviously a trust rather than an actively managed fund. Its 3-year annualized returns are 38.82%. So it has done really well. It's done really well over the last 10 years as well. I've been really pleased with its performance since I've held it, and I've actually just added a little bit more to it. So its top 3 holdings at the moment are Illumina, Moderna and Tencent. So again, these are all just ideas for funds, trusts and ETFs that might be worth you looking at and going away and doing your own research, because obviously these are my own personal investments, and I absolutely am not saying go away and invest in these. I just think they might be worth you looking at, doing a bit of research and see if they might fit into something or an investment plan that you want to put together. Okay, so moving on to number 4, we have Baillie Gifford Long-Term Global Growth. Again, another Baillie Gifford fund. We will move on to funds that aren't Baillie Gifford in a minute. 3-year annualized returns with that are 34.33, and the top 3 holdings are Amazon, Mituan, which I'm not sure if I'm saying right, and Illumina. So I really do like the Baillie Gifford funds. As you can see, the Scottish Mortgage Investment Trust is actually managed by Baillie Gifford. So I do have a lot of Baillie Gifford funds and trusts high up and making up the biggest proportion of my portfolio. Moving on to one that is not Baillie Gifford, we have Blackrock Global World Tech D2. Obviously, this is a tech fund, an actively managed tech fund. It's 3-year annualized returns of 31.98, so 31.98% for the last 3 years on average. Top holdings, come as no surprise, Apple, Microsoft, and then Alphabet. The next holding that I have is the Pacific Horizon Investment Trust, so a trust rather than an actively managed fund there. Its 3-year annualized returns are 38.89%. So really, really strong returns. This is another one that I've just added a bit more to the Pacific Horizon Investment Trust in my portfolio. I've been very, very pleased with it. It'll be interesting to see how it does in the coming months and years. So the top 3 holdings for that, the Pacific Horizon Investment Trust, are Sea Limited, Tata Motors, and Li Ning. So moving on now to another investment trust, but one that is a BlackRock one. So it's the BlackRock Greater Europe Investment Trust. This has got a 26.863-year annualized return. I wanted to diversify my portfolio a little bit and have a bit more Europe in my portfolio. So you'll see these next 2 trusts are both European-based trusts. So yeah, the top 3 holdings for the BlackRock Greater Europe Investment Trust are ASML, Kering, and then Lonza Group. And then again, as I said, I have a separate video on this next holding, which is the Montanaro European Smaller Companies Trust. I have been so pleased with the performance of this trust, and it is up 29.03% for annualized 3-year returns. So really, really strong returns there. Top 3 holdings are NCAB, then Sartorius, then Biotech, then Fort Knox. So some nice diversity there. So again, as I said, 2 European trusts there, but very different top 3 holdings. Moving on to a nice ETF, I have the Ishares Global Clean Energy. This is one that I want to hold on to for a long time, and I hope could potentially do very well in the future. I might have to hold on to it for a long time to see it doing very, very well, but we shall see. Its 3-year annualized returns are 36.15%, which is really, really good. And obviously its top 3 holdings are all clean energy holdings. So we've got Vestas Wind, then Ørsted, then Enphase Energy. This one hasn't been doing particularly well in the last few months, but I'm still pleased with it, and as I said, plan to hold on to it into the long term. The next one is one that has been doing particularly badly over the last few months because of what has been happening with China and Chinese stocks. I'm still holding on to a smaller amount of it. I'm gonna see how it does over the next few months. I don't want to panic sell, however, as I said, it's not doing particularly well. Anyway, I can do a whole separate video on that if you think it'd be interesting. Anyway, it is the JP Morgan China Growth and Income Trust. Its 3-year annualized returns are 28.22%, and its top holdings are Tencent, Scotiabank, and Alibaba. So there is a trust that is focusing on the Chinese market. Yeah, at the moment I'm holding on to it, but I might review that in the next few months. We shall see. Okay, so moving on to the next ETF, it's the Invesco Markets Nasdaq 100 ETF. So I bought this quite recently, a few months ago actually, and I have been really, really pleased with its performance. I did buy it in a little bit of a dip, so I got very lucky there because I don't plan to buy the dip. It was just when I was ready to buy it. Its 3-year annualized returns are 24.78%, which is awesome for an ETF. And as you would expect, its top 3 holdings are Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon. So I did want to have one tech managed fund and then one tech ETF as well, because I thought it would be good to compare them. And as you can see, this is coming lower down in my portfolio, so I have less invested in the Invesco Markets ETF for the Nasdaq 100, but I did want to hold it and see how it's done. And it's done very well, so I'm really, really pleased with that. So moving on to the next one, this is one that I've recently added actually, and it's the LNG Battery Value Chain ETF. This has got a 3-year annualised returns of 25.05%, and then its top 3 holdings are very, very different, obviously, from any of the other top 3 holdings. So we have Pilbara Minerals, BYD and Livent Corp as well as their top 3 holdings. So this, I've only added a small amount of this to my portfolio, but I thought it'd be interesting to see how it performs over the coming months and years. The next one that I've added to my portfolio is the Baillie Gifford US Growth Trust. It's a very small amount that I have in it, and it is up, well, and its 3-year annualised returns are 35.52%. So top holdings are Shopify, Moderna and Amazon. Then I wanted to add a little bit of the UK market into this portfolio. So I have the Lion Trust UK Microcap. The 3-year annualised returns for that are 20.33%, which is still great and really, really strong returns. And the top holdings in this UK Microcap fund are Churchill, Charles Stanley and Tatton Asset Management. So I've been really pleased with the performance of that. Again, just a small part of my portfolio. It might be something that I choose to add to later, but at the moment I'm happy just to have that small part and see how it does for me, and then potentially review again in the next 6 months. So the second to last holding that I have is the GAM Star Disruptive Growth. This is up 32.23% as 3-year annualised returns. So really strong returns. Its top 3 holdings are Facebook, Alphabet and Seagate. So none of the other companies that I have Facebook as their top holding. So it will be interesting to see how it does. It is a little bit different from the other holdings that I have. But again, it's quite a small amount, so I am not sure whether to sell this and just invest in one of the other investments that I have and have a larger pot of that, because to be honest, it was getting to the point where there was quite a lot of crossover with all of these different funds, trusts and ETFs. When I was looking at those top holdings, there was so much crossover that I actually thought I need to get rid of some of these and just stick with the ones that I have felt has performed the best for me and meet what I'm looking for in my portfolio. But yeah, it's doing well. It's a small amount. I will hold on to it, but I might review that again in the next 6 months. The next and last one that I'm going to be telling you about has performed terribly for me since I started investing in it, and it is the Ishares Physical Palladium. This is the only ETC that I hold in my portfolio, and it is the smallest amount that I hold, so it's okay that it's not doing particularly well. I am going to hold on to it because I did want to have an ETC in my portfolio, but it is not doing very well. However, the 3-year annualised returns for Ishares Physical Palladium are 22.57%. It'll be interesting to see if that one picks up. At the moment, I'm just going to keep holding on to it and see what happens. But overall, I have been so pleased with these investments. You'll see there is a real mix of funds, trusts and ETFs, and also that random ETC in there as well. I think it is quite a nice diverse portfolio. I obviously have a lot of America, Europe, the Pacific, a little bit of the UK of course as well. And yeah, I've been really pleased with the performance of this portfolio. I probably will do a review actually on this portfolio as a whole in the next 6 months. If you would like to see what I'm holding, if I've sold any of these positions in my different ISAs, or whether I'm holding on to them, if I'm adding to any of them, if that would be interesting, then please do let me know. If I've missed anything or you want any more information, then again, please do let me know. You'll see from this video that I haven't included the 2 Vanguard investments that I have, so I talk about those 2 Vanguard investments in my Vanguard versus me videos, which I will link here. I haven't included them because the investment value was, I think, £250 for each one, so they don't form a very big part of my portfolio. So these are the 16 funds, trusts and ETFs that I'm currently invested in my investment ISA. As I said before, I do like to invest in funds, trusts and ETFs rather than individual stocks and shares in this portfolio, and you'll also see that I do choose to invest quite a lot of money into actively managed funds. I've got another video on that actually about why I do choose to invest in some actively managed funds. Yes, the fees are higher, but I have seen personally that the returns have been much higher than investing in the index. So it's been a decision that I am comfortable with and happy with, and will continue to stay invested in these actively managed funds despite the fees being higher. Anyway, again, that might be something that I review in the next 6 months. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope you found this video interesting, and I wish you all the very best with your investments. Please don't copy what I'm doing. I'm not an expert, I'm not a pro, I'm just very enthusiastic. I like doing my research, and I'm really enjoying investing and making money from my investments. However, what I'm trying to do and my risk level and what I'm trying to do for my family could be very different to what you're trying to do with your investments. So yeah, please do consider that and definitely do your own thing. Anyway, thank you so very much for watching, and I wish you all the best. Bye bye.